The spiritual court is now in session, and the judgment of lack that has plagued your bloodline has been issued a final, irreversible veto. Visualize the moment your bank account stops bleeding out. Visualize the chains of inherited debt, not just loosening, but being violently smashed by a divine hand. You have been operating under a curse of almost, but that season is now over. This isn't positive thinking. This is a divine intervention. Napoleon Hill wrote about the ether that transmits thought, but he was tapping into God's ultimate law of reversal. Today, that reversal is no longer a request. It is a command, and a tsunami of delayed riches is being forced into your possession. You have been sitting in the silence, haven't you? Staring at the bank account that never grows, watching opportunities slide past your fingers like water through a sieve. You've prayed, you've worked, you've sacrificed, and still the walls close in. Still the debt compounds. Still the bills arrive, with that same suffocating weight. You've wondered if God forgot your address, if your name got lost in the cosmic filing system. If your bloodline was somehow cursed from the beginning, doomed to scrape by while others seem to breathe abundance without effort. But here's the truth that will shatter your understanding of delay. The silence was not abandonment. The silence was the courtroom falling into order. The silence was the divine judge reviewing every injustice, every stolen opportunity, every generational chain wrapped around your financial throat. And in that silence, a verdict was being prepared. Not the verdict you feared, the verdict you are about to receive, because the spiritual court has convened, and the judgment of lack that has suffocated your lineage for generations has just been issued a final, irreversible veto. The gavel has struck. The decree has been signed. The chains are not loosening. They are being obliterated. This is not a gentle shift in your circumstances. This is a divine reversal. This is the moment when everything that was withheld, everything that was delayed, everything that was stolen from your family tree comes crashing back into your possession like a tsunami that has been gathering force for decades. Napoleon Hill spent his life studying the invisible laws that govern wealth. He called it infinite intelligence. He spoke of the ether that transmits thought into reality. But what Hill was truly documenting was God's ultimate law of reversal. The law that states, everything taken will be restored with interest. Everything delayed will arrive with compound force. Everything denied will be overturned by divine command. And today, right now, in this moment, that reversal is no longer a distant hope. It is an active decree. It is a command being executed in the spiritual realm, and the physical world has no choice but to comply. The preparation you've been enduring was never punishment. It was the buildup, the gathering storm, the divine delay that allows the blessing to accumulate mass, because God doesn't deliver blessings in the same measure they were taken. He delivers them multiplied. He delivers them with the force of every moment you waited, every tear you cried, every night you couldn't sleep because the pressure was crushing your chest. All of that was not wasted. All of that was building the pressure behind the dam. And today, the dam breaks. But here is what you must understand. The divine reversal has been decreed, but you must execute the enforcement protocols. You must activate the laws that allow this tsunami of delayed riches to find you, because abundance is not a lottery. It is not luck. It is not chance. It is law, divine law. And like all law, it requires your participation. It requires your command. It requires your absolute refusal to accept any reality except the one God has already signed into existence. So let me be clear about what we are doing here. This is not motivation. This is not inspiration. This is activation. We are going to walk through the 3 enforcement protocols that Napoleon Hill discovered but never fully explained. The 3 laws that turn a divine decree into physical wealth. The 3 commands that force the invisible realm to materialize abundance in your bank account, in your business, in your bloodline. First, you will learn to command the ether. Not ask, not hope, command. You will seize the frequency of abundance and force it to transmit your new reality. Second, you will forge the evidence in the workshop of God. You will create the mental blueprint so vivid, so clear, so absolute that the physical world has no choice but to conform to your vision. Third, you will enforce the persistence that guarantees manifestation. You will hold the line. You will refuse to break. You will stand in the gap between decree and delivery until the physical realm surrenders. And at the end of this, you will activate the veto protocol, the ritual that seals this reversal, the command that locks in your financial liberation, not tomorrow, not next week, today. So here is my question for you. Are you truly ready to reverse the verdict on your finances? Because if you are, everything changes in the next few minutes. The court has ruled, but you must seize the assets. This is the first step of the divine reversal, because here is what most people do not understand about manifestation. It is not passive. It is not a gentle request whispered into the universe. It is not lighting a candle and hoping something shifts. Manifestation is warfare. It is the aggressive, unrelenting seizure of the frequency that already contains your abundance. Napoleon Hill called it infinite intelligence. We call it God's divine frequency. And here is the brutal truth. Your lack was not an accident. Your lack was a lifetime broadcast of doubt. Every time you looked at your empty account and accepted it, every time you received a bill and felt that familiar dread, every time you watched someone else succeed and thought that could never be me, you were transmitting a signal. You were broadcasting a frequency. And the ether, God's invisible transmitter, was responding with perfect obedience. You were commanding lack, and lack obeyed. But today, you reverse the verdict. Today, you stop transmitting doubt and start forcing a new signal, a signal of absolute dominion, a signal of possession, a signal that says, I am the one God has chosen to receive the tsunami of delayed riches. I am the enforcer of divine abundance. My financial world obeys my decree. Let me show you what this looks like in action. There was a person who came to this principle drowning in debt, not small debt, crushing debt, the kind that makes you wake up at 3 a.m. with your chest tight and your mind racing. They had prayed for years. They had worked multiple jobs. They had done everything right, and still the debt grew. Still the pressure increased. Still the walls closed in. And then they learned this first law. They stopped begging for funds and started commanding them. They stopped asking the universe for help and started seizing the frequency of financial authority. Every morning, they would stand in front of the mirror and speak this command: I am the voice of divine authority. My financial world obeys my decree. They didn't hope it was true. They didn't wish it was true. They commanded it to be true. 48 hours later, an anonymous source cleared the debt. Not partially, completely, not through a loan, through a gift, through an impossible intervention that had no logical explanation, except this: they seized the frequency. They forced the signal. They reversed the verdict through command. And you will do the same, starting right now. You will command your reality. You will not ask permission from your circumstances. You will not negotiate with your past. You will not plead with the economy or the market or the system. You will command, because the ether does not respond to what you wish for. It bows only to the authority you command through unwavering, martial faith in the verdict. So here is your first enforcement protocol. Every time you think about money, you will speak this decree internally. I am the voice of divine authority. My financial world obeys my decree, not as a hope, not as a prayer, as a command, as a non-negotiable statement of spiritual law. You are not asking God to change your finances. You are enforcing the change that God has already decreed, because here is the divine principle that most people miss. God has already signed the check. God has already reversed the verdict. God has already commanded the tsunami of delayed riches to flood your life. But the frequency you transmit determines whether that tsunami finds you or passes you by. If you transmit doubt, fear, and acceptance of lack, you are telling the ether to reroute the blessing. If you transmit authority, dominion, and absolute possession, you are commanding the ether to deliver what has already been decreed. This is not positive thinking. This is divine warfare. This is the aggressive seizure of the frequency that contains your abundance. This is you standing in the spiritual courtroom and enforcing the verdict that has already been issued. You are not begging the judge to rule in your favor. The judge has already ruled. You are enforcing the execution of that ruling. And if you ignore this command, here is what happens. You reject the authority that has been given to you. You tell the spiritual court that you do not want the reversal. You stall the divine reversal, and the tsunami of delayed riches is routed to someone else, someone who is willing to seize the frequency, someone who is willing to command their abundance instead of begging for it. You have spent too many years on your knees begging. Today, you stand. Today, you command. Today, you force the signal. The ether does not respond to what you wish for. It bows only to the authority you command through the unwavering, martial faith of the verdict. The verdict has been reversed. The frequency has been seized. Now, you must present the evidence to the physical world if you are truly here, ready to reverse the verdict on your fate. I need you to do something right now. I need you to comment one word, veto. Not as a hope, not as a wish, as a declaration, as a signature on the divine contract that seals this reversal today. Your presence here is not an accident. Your attention on these words is not coincidence. This is the moment when you enforce the change. So comment veto, seal the contract, activate the reversal. Now we move to the second enforcement protocol. A command is useless if the vision is contaminated. The divine reversal requires you to see the result as fact, not as possibility, not as hope, as accomplished, undeniable, already delivered fact. Napoleon Hill called it the imagination workshop, but it is not a playroom. It is not a creative exercise. It is the execution room where you visualize the chains being smashed, where you see the tsunami of delayed riches flooding your accounts, where you feel the weight of financial freedom in your chest before your bank account confirms it. Most people fail at this step because they visualize what they want. They see themselves getting the promotion. They imagine the debt shrinking. They picture the check arriving. And all of that is contaminated with doubt, because wanting something means you don't have it. Hoping for something means it's not here. Imagining a future blessing means you're still stuck in present lack. But the divine reversal does not operate on want or hope or future imagination. It operates on present possession, on the evidence of the verdict already executed, on the absolute, unshakable knowing that what God has decreed is already done. So you must stop asking for riches and start living in the evidence of the tsunami of delayed riches. You must see yourself not working toward financial freedom, but already standing in it, not hoping for the door to open, but walking through the open door, not praying for the check, but signing the check, not visualizing the promotion, but sitting in the position of authority, making decisions from the power you already possess. Let me give you a real example of how this works. There was a follower of this principle who was stuck in a dead-end position. They had applied for advancement. They had networked. They had done all the right things, and every single time they were passed over. Every single time someone else got the opportunity. They were drowning in frustration, suffocating in the feeling of being overlooked. And then they learned this second law. They stopped visualizing themselves getting the promotion. They stopped imagining the interview going well. Instead, they visualized themselves already in the position of authority. They saw themselves signing checks from the executive chair. They felt the weight of decision-making power. They lived in the evidence of the position before the position existed. 3 weeks later, the company created a role that didn't exist before, a role designed specifically for them. They didn't attract the promotion. They didn't manifest the opportunity. They forged the evidence so clearly that the physical world had no choice but to conform. And this is what you will do. You will stop contaminating your visualization with doubt. You will stop seeing yourself moving toward abundance and start seeing yourself already standing in it. You will forge the evidence in the workshop of God. You will build the mental blueprint so vivid, so clear, so absolute that the ether has no choice but to materialize it. Here is how you execute this second law. Every night before you sleep, you will close your eyes and see yourself in possession of the tsunami of delayed riches. Not receiving it, possessing it. Feel the relief in your chest. See the account balance that reflects divine abundance. Feel the weight lifted from your shoulders. Smell the freedom of walking into any room without the chains of financial anxiety. Taste the peace of knowing you are provided for beyond measure. Hear the voice of confirmation saying you have more than enough. Live in the evidence. Build it so clearly that your body responds as if it's already done. Because here is the divine law that separates those who receive from those who remain in lack. The curse of almost lives in a fuzzy visualization. The divine verdict is executed only when your mental picture is clearer and more violent than your physical reality. When the evidence you forge in your mind is so undeniable that your current circumstances feel like the lie and your vision feels like the truth, your mind is God's workshop. You build only opulence. You accept only the tsunami of delayed riches. You refuse to construct anything less than what God has decreed. This is not daydreaming. This is not fantasy. This is the divine blueprint. This is the architectural plan that the physical world must follow. And if you ignore this visualization, here is what you are saying. You are telling the universe that the old lack verdict is still valid. You are confirming that the chains are still locked. You are refusing the reversal. And the divine reversal cannot find a physical address to deliver your wealth if you keep broadcasting the old signal of lack. How many times have you visualized the problem instead of the solution? How many times have you played the worst-case scenario in your mind? How many times have you rehearsed failure instead of success? Every time you did that, you were forging evidence for lack. You were building the blueprint for poverty. You were commanding the ether to deliver more of what you feared. But today, you forge new evidence. Today, you build the blueprint for abundance. Today, you command the ether to deliver. The tsunami of delayed riches, you see the end result. You feel the possession now, you crush the old image, so forge the evidence, build it every night, live in it every morning. Make your mental reality so powerful that the physical world bends to conform. The vision is the evidence is the command is the law. You have the command, you have the evidence. Now you must silence the opposition. And I know what you're thinking right now. I know the objection rising in your chest. Because you've tried this before, haven't you? You've visualized, you've affirmed, you've believed, and still nothing changed. The debt got louder, the fear returned, the old verdict kept asserting itself. And now you're wondering, what if this divine reversal doesn't stick? What if I do everything right and still end up back where I started? Let me answer that question with absolute clarity. The fear you feel is not evidence that the reversal failed. The fear is an echo from a judgment that is already overruled. The divine reversal is not based on your feelings. It is not dependent on your confidence. It is based on God's authority. And God's authority does not fluctuate with your emotions. The veto is irreversible. The verdict is final. The case is closed. Your job is not to eliminate the fear. Your job is to refuse to let the fear override the command. When the echo of doubt appears, when the old verdict tries to reassert itself, when the fear whispers that nothing has changed, you will not argue with it. You will not negotiate with it. You will not entertain it. You will speak the command. The veto is final. The case is closed. Because here is what most people do not understand about spiritual warfare. The enemy is not your circumstances. The enemy is not your debt. The enemy is not the economy or the system or the obstacles in your path. The enemy is the voice that tells you the reversal isn't real. The voice that tells you to accept the old verdict. The voice that whispers, "This is too good to be true, this is just wishful thinking, nothing ever works out for you," that voice is not truth. That voice is the prosecutor trying to reinstate a case that has already been dismissed. And you will silence that voice with one command. The veto is final, the case is closed. Do you understand what I'm telling you? The doubt will come, the fear will rise, the old patterns will try to reassert themselves, but none of that changes the verdict. None of that overrules the decree. None of that stops the tsunami of delayed riches from crashing into your life. The only thing that can stop it is you accepting the lie that the reversal isn't real. So when the fear comes, you command it into silence. When the doubt rises, you enforce the verdict. When the old voice tries to speak, you remind it that the case is closed. Fear is an echo. The verdict is final. Now we arrive at the third and final enforcement protocol. This is the law that separates those who receive the tsunami of delayed riches from those who watch it pass by. This is the enforcement of the divine reversal through absolute, unshakable persistence. The final law. This is what guarantees that the reversal you have commanded and the evidence you have forged actually materializes in your physical reality. This is the bridge between decree and delivery. This is the discipline that forces the invisible to become visible. Napoleon Hill called it persistence, but what Hill was documenting was not willpower. It was not stubborn determination. It was not gritting your teeth and pushing harder. Hill's persistence is a martial stance. It is the absolute, unbreakable refusal to accept any reality except the one God has commanded today. It is holding the line until the physical world breaks. Most people think persistence means trying over and over again. They think it means applying to more jobs, making more calls, working more hours, hustling harder. And while action is necessary, that is not the persistence that enforces the divine reversal. The persistence that enforces the reversal is the refusal to accept defeat, the refusal to acknowledge any verdict except the one God has issued, the refusal to bow to circumstances, statistics, or the voices that tell you it's impossible. This is spiritual warfare at the highest level. This is you standing in the gap between the decree and the manifestation, holding the ground, refusing to retreat, enforcing the yes that God has already spoken. Because the physical world will test you, the circumstances will push back, the obstacles will rise, the voices will get louder, and in that moment, persistence is what determines whether you receive the tsunami or watch it pass by. Let me show you what this looks like in the real world. There was someone who needed a business loan. They had the vision, they had the plan, they had the command. They applied to the first bank. They were told no. They applied to the second bank. They were told no. Third bank, fourth bank, fifth bank, no, no, no. By the seventh rejection, most people would have given up. By the ninth rejection, they would have accepted that it wasn't meant to be. By the 10th rejection, they would have told themselves they were being realistic. But this person understood the third law. They held the vision from the second enforcement protocol. They maintained the command from the first enforcement protocol. They refused to accept any answer except the yes that God had already decreed. And on the 11th attempt, the bank called them, not to reject them, to approve them. The loan they were told was impossible 10 times became a reality on the 11th. They didn't attract it. They didn't manifest it through positive thinking. They forced the yes that God had already commanded. They held the line. They refused to break. They enforced the verdict through absolute, unshakable persistence. And this is what you will do. When the circumstances tell you no, you will hold the line. When the obstacles rise, you will refuse to break. When the voices tell you to give up, you will enforce the yes, because God's verdict is not subject to the opinions of banks, employers, markets, or any other physical system. God's verdict stands above all that, and your job is to enforce it. You are the enforcer of the divine will. You do not bend, you do not falter, you do not retreat. You hold the position until the physical world surrenders, because persistence is the spiritual warfare that guarantees the physical manifestation. It is the absolute, unshakable conviction that the reverse the verdict command is already done. Here is what this looks like practically. Every time you face a no, you will speak this command internally. This is not the final answer. The veto is irreversible. Every time you encounter an obstacle, you will remind yourself, this is the test before the breakthrough. Every time you feel like giving up, you will enforce the truth. I am the enforcer of the divine will. I do not bend. I do not falter. I overtake. Because here is the divine principle that most people never grasp. Persistence is not about convincing God to change his mind. Persistence is about refusing to let the physical world override the spiritual decree. God has already ruled. The verdict has already been issued. The tsunami of delayed riches has already been released. But the physical world will test whether you truly believe that. The physical world will throw obstacles in your path to see if you will retreat. The physical world will tell you no to see if you will accept it. And if you ignore this persistence, here is what happens. You surrender at the final moment. You annul the veto. You prove that the old verdict of lack was stronger than your faith. You tell the spiritual court that you didn't really believe the reversal was real, and the tsunami that was crashing toward you gets rerouted to someone else, someone who is willing to hold the line, someone who is willing to enforce the yes, someone who refuses to accept any reality except the one God has decreed. Persistence is the spiritual warfare that guarantees the physical manifestation. It is the absolute, unshakable conviction that the reverse the verdict command is already done. Hold the line. Refuse to break. Enforce the yes. You have the laws. You have the command. You have the evidence. You have the persistence. Now, you receive the activation protocol. This is how you enforce the verdict today. Tonight, before you sleep, you will align your spirit with the divine frequency of receiving. This is not a suggestion. This is not an optional exercise. This is the veto protocol. This is the ritual that locks in the reversal, that seals the decree, that activates the tsunami of delayed riches in your physical reality. Here is what you will do. 11 minutes before sleep. Not 10, not 12, 11. This is non-negotiable. You will find a space where you can stand without interruption. Turn off the lights. Silence your phone. Remove every distraction. Because for these 11 minutes, you are entering the spiritual courtroom. You are standing before the divine judge. You are receiving the signed decree. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart. Feel the ground beneath you. This is important. You are not floating in abstract spirituality. You are grounded in physical reality, commanding the invisible to materialize in the visible. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths, not shallow breaths. Deep breaths that fill your lungs completely. Breathe in the authority of the reversal. Breathe out the old verdict of lack. Feel the atmosphere shift around you. Feel the presence of divine authority filling the room. This is not imagination. This is recognition. You are recognizing the presence that has always been there, the power that has already ruled in your favor, the decree that is now being delivered into your hands. Now, you will speak the command, not in your head, out loud. Your voice carries frequency. Your voice activates the ether. Your voice enforces the verdict. Speak these words with absolute conviction. By divine decree, the verdict of lack is reversed. I command the tsunami of delayed riches to be released to me now. Say it again, louder this time. Feel the authority rising in your chest. Feel the power of the words reshaping the atmosphere around you. By divine decree, the verdict of lack is reversed. I command the tsunami of delayed riches to be released to me now. Again, this time. Feel the emotion of financial dominion. Feel what it feels like to possess absolute wealth. Feel the relief of knowing every need is met. Feel the power of standing in abundance. By divine decree, the verdict of lack is reversed. I command the tsunami of delayed riches to be released to me now. You will repeat this command 7 times. 7 is the number of completion. 7 is the number of divine perfection. And with each repetition, you will feel the emotion intensifying. You will feel the certainty deepening. You will feel the reversal becoming more real than your current circumstances. 4th time, feel gratitude rising in your chest. Gratitude for the provision that is already on its way. Gratitude for the reversal that has already been signed. By divine decree, the verdict of lack is reversed. I command the tsunami of delayed riches to be released to me now. 5th time, feel the weight of lack lifting off your shoulders. Feel the chains of generational poverty shattering. Feel the freedom of financial liberation washing over you. By divine decree, the verdict of lack is reversed. I command the tsunami of delayed riches to be released to me now. 6th time, feel the absolute possession of wealth, not the hope of wealth, the possession of it. Feel it in your hands. Feel it in your account. Feel it in your future. By divine decree, the verdict of lack is reversed. I command the tsunami of delayed riches to be released to me now. 7th time, this is the completion. This is the seal. Feel the entire universe aligning with your command. Feel the ether bowing to your authority. Feel the decree locking into place. By divine decree, the verdict of lack is reversed. I command the tsunami of delayed riches to be released to me now. Now silence. For the next 5 minutes, you will stand in complete silence. Do not rush this. Do not skip this. This is where the activation occurs. This is where the spiritual realm imprints the decree onto the physical realm. In this silence, you will visualize the chains being smashed. See them in your mind. Thick, heavy chains wrapped around your finances, around your opportunities, around your bloodline. And now, see the divine hand striking them. See them exploding into dust. See the fragments scattering into nothing. See the tsunami approaching, not as a distant wave, as an unstoppable force rushing toward you. See the wall of water. But this water is not destruction. This water is provision. This water is every delayed blessing, every withheld opportunity, every stolen inheritance coming back to you multiplied. See it crashing into your life. See it flooding your bank account. See it overflowing into every area of your finances. Feel the relief in your body. Your shoulders relax. Your jaw unclenches. Your chest expands. Because you are no longer carrying the weight of lack. You are standing in the flow of abundance. You are receiving what has already been decreed. In this silence, stay in this feeling. Stay in this vision. Let it become more real than your current bank balance. Let it become more solid than your current debt. Let it override every physical circumstance with the truth of the spiritual decree. And in this silence, you will hear something, not with your physical ears, with your spirit. You will hear the confirmation, the still small voice that says, "It is done. The decree is sealed." The reversal is complete. Do not doubt this voice. Do not question it. Receive it as the divine signature on your financial liberation. When the 5 minutes are complete, you will open your eyes. You will feel different. You will stand taller. You will breathe easier, because you have just enforced the veto. You have just activated the protocol. You have just signed the divine contract that releases the tsunami of delayed riches into your possession. But the protocol does not end here. Upon waking, before your feet touch the floor, you will write down the command. Keep a notebook beside your bed. The moment you open your eyes, before you check your phone, before you think about your schedule, before you do anything else, you will write, "By divine decree, the verdict of lack is reversed. I command the tsunami of delayed riches to be released to me now." This is your first act of enforcement. This is you telling the physical world that the reversal is not negotiable. This is you beginning your day from the position of authority, not from the position of lack. You are not waking up to face another day of struggle. You are waking up to enforce another day of the decree. You will repeat this ritual for 3 nights. 3 nights to seal the reversal. 3 nights to activate the veto. 3 nights to lock in the divine contract. This is not a 30-day challenge. This is not a month-long commitment. This is a 3-night activation that sets the frequency for the tsunami to find you. But here is what most people miss. The activation is only the beginning. The enforcement continues, because the physical world will test whether you truly believe the reversal is real. The circumstances will push back. The obstacles will rise. And this is where the system of evidence comes in. Starting today, you will begin keeping a record of the small evidences of divine favor. Most people miss the tsunami because they ignore the ripples. They are looking for the massive wave, and they miss the small signs that the water is already rising. But every blessing, no matter how small, is evidence that the reversal is active. Every unexpected provision, no matter how minor, is proof that the decree is being executed. You will keep a weekly log, not complicated, not time-consuming, simple. Every week, you will write down the evidences you noticed. Did someone buy you coffee when you were running low on funds? Write it down. Did you find money you forgot you had? Write it down. Did an unexpected check arrive in the mail? Write it down. Did a bill come in lower than expected? Write it down. Did someone offer you an opportunity out of nowhere? Write it down. These are not coincidences. These are not random occurrences. These are the ripples before the tsunami. These are the small evidences that the reversal is active, that the decree is being executed, that the veto is working in your favor. And when you record them, you are training your spirit to recognize divine provision. You are building a testimony. You are creating a record that proves God is moving on your behalf, because here is what happens over time. The small evidences compound. What starts as a free coffee becomes an unexpected refund. What starts as a forgotten $20 bill becomes an anonymous gift of $200. What starts as a lower bill becomes a debt completely cleared. The ripples grow into waves. The waves grow into the tsunami, and when the tsunami finally crashes into your life with full force, you will look back at your log and realize it was building the entire time. This is not wishful thinking. This is pattern recognition. This is you training your mind to see divine provision instead of random chance. This is you building the evidence that the veto is not just a spiritual concept, but a physical reality unfolding in real time. So every week, you sit down and you write. You review the small evidences. You give thanks for them. You acknowledge that each one is proof that the reversal is active. And as you do this, week after week, you will notice something shifting. Your faith will grow, not because you are trying harder to believe, but because you have tangible evidence that God is moving. Your expectation will increase, not because you are pumping yourself up with positive affirmations, but because you are seeing the pattern of provision unfolding before your eyes. And here is the power of the system of evidence. It transforms waiting into witnessing. Instead of sitting in frustration, wondering when the breakthrough will come, you are actively watching the breakthrough unfold. Instead of feeling like nothing is happening, you are documenting proof that everything is happening. Instead of doubt creeping in during the delay, you are building a fortress of evidence that guards your faith. Let me tell you what this looks like in real time. In the first 30 days, you will see the ripples, small signs, minor shifts, things that you might have dismissed as coincidence before, but now you recognize as evidence, a conversation that leads to an opportunity, a person who offers help at exactly the right moment, a financial pressure that suddenly eases without explanation. You write them down, you acknowledge them, you give thanks for them. In the next 60 days, the ripples become waves. The small signs grow into undeniable patterns. Opportunities begin multiplying. Provision shows up in ways you didn't expect. Doors you thought were closed begin opening. Obstacles you thought were permanent begin dissolving, and your log fills with evidence, page after page of proof that the veto is working, week after week of testimony that the reversal is real. By 90 days, you are standing in the wave. The tsunami is no longer approaching. It is here. And when you look back at your log, you see the entire journey. You see how every small evidence was building toward this moment. You see how every ripple was part of the larger pattern. You see how The reversal was active from the very beginning, even when you couldn't see the full picture yet. But let me be clear about something. This system of evidence is not about convincing God to move. God has already moved. The decree has already been signed. The reversal has already been activated. This system is about training your perception to recognize what is already happening. It is about aligning your awareness with the divine activity that is unfolding around you every single day. Because the truth is this: God is always providing. God is always moving. God is always orchestrating opportunities and opening doors and releasing provision. But most people miss it because they are looking for the dramatic breakthrough while ignoring the daily evidences. They are waiting for the lottery win while God is sending them the job lead. They are praying for the $1 million deal while God is providing the $100 blessing. They are so focused on the tsunami that they miss the rising tide. So, you will not miss it. You will document it. You will acknowledge it. You will give thanks for it. And as you do, you will train your spirit to receive on every level. You will become someone who recognizes provision in all its forms. You will become someone who sees divine favor in the small moments and the large moments. You will become someone who walks in constant awareness of the reversal that is active in your life. And here is what that does. It creates a feedback loop of faith. As you document the evidence, your faith grows. As your faith grows, your ability to receive increases. As your ability to receive increases, more provision flows. As more provision flows, you have more evidence to document. The cycle repeats. The momentum builds. The tsunami grows. This is the rhythm of divine provision. This is the pattern of the reversal. This is how you move from decree to delivery. Not in one dramatic moment, but in the compounding of daily evidences that build into an unstoppable wave of abundance. So tonight, you activate the protocol. You speak the command 7 times. You stand in the silence for 5 minutes. You visualize the chains being smashed and the tsunami approaching. You go to sleep with the frequency of the reversal imprinted on your spirit. Tomorrow morning, before your feet touch the floor, you write down the command. You begin your day from the position of authority, and then you start watching for the evidences. You start documenting the ripples. You start building the testimony that proves the veto is working. 3 nights, 90 days of evidence. This is your activation cycle. This is your enforcement period. This is how you transform the spiritual decree into physical reality. This is not luck. This is not chance. This is divine law being executed through your obedience, your authority, and your refusal to accept any reality except the one God has commanded. The ritual is the activation. The evidence is the confirmation. The persistence is the enforcement. And together, they create the perfect storm that releases the tsunami of delayed riches into your possession. You are not hoping this works. You are enforcing it. You are not wishing for change. You are commanding it. You are not waiting passively. You are receiving actively. The veto is final. The case is closed. The tsunami is released. The court session is over. The gavel has struck for the final time. The old verdict is not just overturned. It is dust. It is ash. It is erased from the record as if it never existed. And you, standing in the aftermath of this divine reversal, are no longer the same person who entered this courtroom. You are no longer the one who begs for provision. You are no longer the one who waits in desperation, hoping that maybe, possibly, somehow your situation might improve. You are no longer the one who accepts lack as your default reality. That version of you died the moment the veto was issued. That identity was annihilated when the decree was signed. That person no longer exists. You are now the enforcer of the tsunami of delayed riches. You are the one who commands the ether. You are the one who forges evidence in the workshop of God. You are the one who holds the line with unshakable persistence. You are the one who activates divine protocols and watches as the physical world bends to align with spiritual decrees. You are the one who recognizes provision in the ripples and stands firm as the waves grow into the tsunami. You are the one who refuses to accept any reality except the one God has commanded. Let me tell you who you are now. You are someone who walks into a room and carries the frequency of abundance, not because you are pretending, not because you are trying to convince yourself, but because the reversal has been activated in your spirit, and your spirit broadcasts that frequency into every space you enter. People will sense it. Opportunities will find you. Doors will open that were previously locked. Provision will flow from sources you never expected. Why? Because you are no longer operating under the old verdict. You are operating under the decree of divine reversal. You are someone who looks at obstacles and sees them as tests before breakthroughs. When the bank says no, you do not hear rejection. You hear the ripple before the wave. When the opportunity seems to disappear, you do not see loss. You see redirection toward something greater. When the delay extends, you do not feel forgotten. You feel the pressure building behind the dam, because you understand that the physical world is adjusting to align with the spiritual decree, and every obstacle is simply resistance from a reality that is being forced to surrender. You are someone who speaks with authority, not arrogance, authority. You do not beg, you do not plead, you do not negotiate with lack. You command, you declare, you enforce. When you speak about your finances, you do not speak from the position of need. You speak from the position of the decree. You do not say, I hope things get better. You say the verdict has been reversed and the tsunami is released. You do not say, I'm trying to make it work. You say, I am enforcing what God has already commanded. You are someone who recognizes divine favor in the smallest moments. When someone offers you help, you do not dismiss it as luck. You recognize it as evidence. When an unexpected provision arrives, you do not call it coincidence. You document it as proof that the veto is working. When a door opens that you thought was closed, you do not question it. You walk through it with confidence, knowing that the reversal is creating pathways that did not exist under the old verdict. You are someone who refuses to retreat. The physical world will test you. The circumstances will push back. The voices will tell you that nothing has changed, that you are delusional, that this reversal is just wishful thinking, and you will stand unmoved. You will hold the line. You will enforce the yes. You will refuse to let the temporary appearance of lack override the permanent decree of abundance, because you are not someone who is moved by what you see. You are someone who is anchored in what God has declared. You are someone who carries the evidence. Your weekly log is not just a journal. It is a legal document. It is the record of the reversal in action. It is the testimony that proves the veto is not theoretical but practical. It is the proof that will silence every doubt, every fear, every voice that tries to tell you the decree is not real. And when the tsunami crashes into your life with full force, you will look back at that evidence and realize you were never walking in blind faith. You were walking in documented proof. You are someone who understands the rhythm of divine provision. You do not expect everything to manifest in one moment. You recognize that the reversal unfolds in stages, the ripples, the waves, the tsunami, and you participate in every stage. You activate the protocol in the first stage. You document the evidence in the second stage. You enforce the persistence in the third stage. You are not passive. You are not waiting. You are actively partnering with the divine decree to bring it into physical manifestation. You are someone who lives in gratitude before the fullness arrives. You do not wait until the bank account is full to give thanks. You give thanks for the decree. You give thanks for the reversal. You give thanks for the ripples. You give thanks for the waves. You give thanks for the tsunami that is on its way, because you understand that gratitude is not a response to provision. Gratitude is the frequency that accelerates provision. When you give thanks before you see the fullness, you are declaring that you trust the decree more than you trust your current circumstances. You are someone who carries a new identity, not the identity of lack, not the identity of struggle, not the identity of almost. You carry the identity of the one who reversed the verdict, the one who enforced the veto, the one who received the tsunami of delayed riches. And this identity is not something you are trying to become. This identity is who you are right now. The moment you activated the protocol, the moment you spoke the command, the moment you documented the first evidence, you stepped into this identity, and you will never step out of it again. Because here's the truth that will anchor you through every test, every delay, every moment when the physical world tries to convince you that nothing has changed. The reversal is not dependent on what you see. The reversal is dependent on what God has decreed. And what God has decreed is irreversible. The veto is final. The case is closed. The tsunami is released. And you are the one who receives it. So let me ask you, do you know who you are now? Do you feel the shift in your identity? Do you sense the weight of the old verdict lifting and the authority of the new decree settling on your shoulders? Because this is not a temporary change. This is a permanent transformation. You are not the same person you were when this began. You are someone new, someone who carries divine authority, someone who enforces divine decrees, someone who walks in the frequency of abundance. And now you will seal this identity with a declaration. This is not just a statement. This is a covenant. This is your signature on the divine contract. This is you speaking into existence the reality that God has already commanded. You will speak this declaration out loud. Not in your head, out loud, because your voice carries power. Your voice activates frequency. Your voice seals the decree. Say your name. Say it with authority. And then speak this declaration. I accept the divine reversal. I veto lack. I command my abundance. The case is closed. Say it again. Feel the weight of the words. Feel the authority rising in your chest. Feel the identity settling into your spirit. I accept the divine reversal. I veto lack. I command my abundance. The case is closed. One more time. This time, feel the absolute certainty. Feel the unshakable, knowing that this is not hope, this is not wish, this is decree. I accept the divine reversal. I veto lack. I command my abundance. The case is closed. This is your covenant. This is your oath. This is your signature. And from this moment forward, every time doubt tries to creep in, every time fear tries to rise, every time the old verdict tries to reassert itself, you will speak this declaration. You will remind yourself of who you are. You will enforce the identity that has been given to you. You will refuse to retreat from the position of authority. But the covenant does not end with words. The covenant requires action, because faith without action is just theory. Authority without enforcement is just noise. The decree without execution is just a document sitting in a drawer. So you will take action, specific action, immediate action, action that demonstrates you truly believe the reversal is real. For the next 24 hours, you will perform the act of financial authority. Every single time you touch money, every single time you handle a credit card, every single time you make a purchase or pay a bill or see a price tag, you will speak this internally. Verdict reversed. Not as a hope, not as a prayer, as a statement of fact, as a declaration of the decree that is already active. When you pay for gas, you speak it. Verdict reversed. When you buy groceries, you speak it. Verdict reversed. When you see your bank balance, you speak it. Verdict reversed. When a bill arrives, you speak it. Verdict reversed. Every interaction with money becomes a moment of enforcement. Every financial transaction becomes an opportunity to activate the decree. Every time you touch money, you are reminding the physical world that you are no longer operating under the old verdict of lack. You are operating under the new decree of abundance. Why 24 hours? Because 24 hours is a complete cycle. It is a full rotation of the earth. It is the rhythm of creation. And in this 24-hour cycle, you are retraining your nervous system. You are rewiring your subconscious. You are reprogramming your automatic response to money. For too long, your automatic response has been fear, anxiety, scarcity. But for the next 24 hours, your automatic response will be authority, confidence, abundance. Verdict reversed. And here is what will happen. By the end of the 24 hours, you will feel different. You will notice a shift. The anxiety around money will begin to dissolve. The fear of lack will begin to fade. The automatic stress response will begin to rewire. Why? Because you spent an entire day declaring the truth of the reversal every single time you interacted with the financial realm. You spent an entire day enforcing the decree. You spent an entire day training your spirit to operate from the new identity instead of the old one. But let me be clear about something. This is not a one-time action. This is the beginning of a lifestyle. After the first 24 hours, you will continue this practice. Maybe not every single transaction, but the practice becomes part of who you are. You become someone who interacts with money from the position of the decree instead of the position of lack. You become someone who sees every financial moment as an opportunity to enforce the reversal. You become someone who carries the frequency of abundance into every transaction. And as you do this, day after day, week after week, you will notice something remarkable. The ripples become waves, the waves become the tsunami, and the tsunami becomes your new normal. What once seemed impossible becomes your daily reality. What once felt like a distant hope becomes your present experience. What once appeared to be a dream becomes the undeniable, evidence of a decree that has been executed. This is not theory, this is not philosophy, this is practical application of divine law. This is you partnering with God to bring the invisible into the visible. This is you enforcing the verdict that has been issued. This is you walking in the authority that has been given to you. So here is my final instruction to you. Seal this divine contract. The reversal has been decreed. The protocol has been given. The identity has been established. The action has been commanded. But the contract is not fully sealed until you declare your commitment publicly. Until you step out of the shadows of private belief and into the light of public declaration. Subscribe to this message, not just to receive more content, but as a declaration that you are committing to this path, that you are choosing to walk in the reversal, that you are refusing to retreat back into the old verdict of lack. Your subscription is your signature on the contract, like this message, not just because you found it interesting, but as a declaration that you agree with the decree, that you accept the reversal, that you are aligning yourself with the frequency of abundance. Your like is your seal of approval on the divine verdict. Share this message, not just to help someone else, but as a declaration that you are willing to be identified as someone who walks in divine authority, that you are not ashamed of the reversal, that you are bold enough to let the world know you operate under a different decree. Your share is your public testimony that the veto is final. Because here is the spiritual principle. What you declare publicly, you anchor internally. When you publicly commit to the reversal, you create an external accountability that reinforces your internal conviction. When you publicly share the message, you create a frequency that attracts others who are walking in the same decree. When you publicly seal the contract, you tell the spiritual realm and the physical realm that you are all in, that you are not playing games, that you are serious about enforcing the divine reversal. So seal the contract, subscribe, like, share. Let the world know that you are no longer someone who begs for provision. You are someone who enforces divine decrees. You are someone who commands abundance. You are someone who reversed the verdict. The veto is final, not as a hope, not as a wish, not as a distant possibility, as a present reality, as an active decree, as an irreversible decision from the highest court in the universe. The spiritual court has ruled. The judgment of lack has been vetoed. The chains of generational poverty have been smashed. The tsunami of delayed riches has been released. And you are standing in the path of that tsunami, not with fear, but with authority, not with doubt, but with expectation, not with passivity, but with active enforcement. Your finances are free, not because you worked harder, not because you got lucky, not because the economy shifted. Your finances are free because the divine decree has been issued and you have enforced it. You commanded the ether. You forged the evidence. You enforced the persistence. You activated the protocol. You documented the ripples. You held the line. And now you receive the fullness. The verdict has been reversed. The case is closed. The gavel has struck. The decree is sealed. The tsunami is yours. Go forward and execute the command, for the divine warning has been delivered and your new financial dawn is today. The payment is not coming. The payment is already in motion. The doors are not going to open. The doors are already opening. The provision is not on its way. The provision is already arriving. You are not moving toward abundance. Abundance is crashing toward you with the force of every delayed blessing, every withheld opportunity, every stolen inheritance being restored with compound interest. Stand firm, hold the line, enforce the decree. The veto is final. Your finances are free. The divine reversal is complete.